Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Justice. It is my triumphant return to the State of Speed podcast. I am here alongside my friends and teammates, Terramaster, and Drake, who will, of course, as always, be serving as our moderator. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing all right.
Good. Ready to talk about some speed duels.
Hell
Absolutely.
yeah! All right, Drake, what do we got for today?
All right, so we kind of like to open most of the podcasts with going over the meta. How has it changed? How has it stayed the same? And sadly, I think this time around, it's a lot more of stayed the same, but there has been some evolutions. So last time we talked about the Twisted Personality Volcanics. We talked about Crystal Beasts and Beatdown, mainly. And then I think we also touched on Sevens a little bit. So first things first, what has changed? In the most simple form, TP still tier 1.
Yep.
Beatdown maybe shifted to tier 2 possibly because it's been replaced with Joey Beatdown.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different of a skill. Very similar deck in how it plays, especially, and even the card choices are pretty similar, but it's a different skill. Crystal Beasts still around, not doing as well as they have been previously, but they're still around. Cyber Angels have kind of emerged a little bit. I don't think a lot of people play them at the moment, but I think they are a pretty good meta call. They answer most of these decks really well. Machine Angel Ritual says, hey, your Blaze Accelerator and your Wildfire, we don't care. And then also, they just have big monsters. So it's like, well, oh, you can make your Cyber Dragon 27 with Beatdown? That's cute. Yeah, we talked about Sevens last time, and I gotta say, that deck has done nothing.
Yeah.
It got a couple tops. Literally the first weekend the set was out. But now that people have experimented with it more, nobody's found anything that works for it. The attacking one monster per turn, that's real rough when you're trying to end a game. And then kind of a deck that's maybe replaced that, but it's still very rogue, is Roids. The Roids are in fact all right, even though they don't use that skill usually. Tara, let's start with you. You've played an okay amount of this format. How are you feeling about just like what has changed and what hasn't?
It's honestly disappointing, the low level of change. The fact that when last we were on the podcast, there was still some level of like optimism, if you wanted to have it, of like, hey, there's still time to make something new. Like someone could come up with something. There's still time to test, to experiment with the new cards we just got. But I think in the months since, that time has kind of passed, and the only change is that Joey Beatdown is better than the old Beatdown, and that is partly because it negates battle traps, and partly because it uses a monster that's just base stats bigger than anything the old Beatdown deck used to normal summon. And that's Jirai Gumo, which is, a midterm card. Yay!
We did it.
So, yeah, congratulations, I guess. But other than Jirai Gumo, I think Drillroid is the only other card that's seen play in like non-rogue strategies. Anything we would classify above rogue, it's just Jirai Gumo and Joy Beatdown, and Drillroid is tech here and there in really the Beatdown decks, right? So that's kind of all. So like a 2-card impact from a 100-card box is a little bit disappointing now that everything seems to have settled. But I'll go to Justice on his thoughts now.
Yeah, I mean, those were all great points. Obviously, I am with you in that the midterm box essentially producing 2 cards, one of which was, of all things, Jirai Gumo, is mildly disappointing. I think we'll get to touch more on that later. As far as the meta itself, I will just say, since this is the first time I've been back on the podcast since it happened, I was the last victor, so to speak, with Kaiba Beatdown, having won the previous Win-A-Box with it. I won the Win-A-Box. Yay! I did it, finally. That was the Banisher down, but we did the profile on that. But yeah, Joey Beatdown overall has been better, kind of for the reasons that you outlined, Drake. Other than that, I don't know, man. The meta feels like Beatdown, TP Volcanic, and then everything else. There really isn't any other deck that's looked to be kind of anywhere near those two. It's really like there are other playable decks, but none of them have seemed if you're gonna enter a tournament, worth playing.
Yeah.
I think Crystal Beast and Cyber Angels can compete, but it's definitely like you're definitely unfavored taking either of those two decks.
Yeah, you're honestly just hurting your own chances. And even then, speaking of JDG members winning things, while it didn't have as many players as we would have liked, we did have the remote duel main event, which who was it? Who won that? I forgot.
Who was it?
Somebody.
Somebody.
It was
Somebody sitting
players.
here.
It was 8 players, so that was the last weekend, I believe. It was 2 water decks, 2 Twisted Personality decks, 2 Joey Beatdown, a Roids, and I am forgetting the last one, which probably says something about the
Yeah, it
deck.
probably wasn't that big a deal. Anyways, the point is, Drake
What
won.
do you think?
Good job, Drake.
Top 4 was. From what
I
just
don't
said.
remember. I know we talked about it. I don't even remember what it was.
I think it was 2 Joey Beatdown and 2 Volcanic.
Yeah, it had to be, right? Yeah, of course.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what it was.
yeah. Unless they got cross matched, like in round 1,
we-
that would have to be what it is.
Well, we
yeah.
almost all the top 4 basically played each other.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, so there you go.
Because it was 3 rounds.
Oh,
and
that's
there's only
right.
3
Yeah,
players.
yeah. There's
Yeah,
only
yeah, so
players.
and so
That's right.
you were able to win
Half of
because
the
we spent time working on that deck and making sure that it could win those 2 matchups.
That
Yeah.
is exactly
And that's
what we did.
really all we were worried about. We had like more tech cards for the Cyber Angel matchup, and then we were like, yeah, we probably don't need those. And then we just put in more cards for those 2 matchups, and there you go.
Yeah, just dodge the CA matchup. It's easy.
Funny
it is
enough,
when no one plays it.
before the event, Ursus was like, "Yeah, I can't play." So I was like, "Okay," so I just don't side.
Yeah, it's like, all right, so definitely don't need those.
That's kind of the benefit you get of like knowing the community and knowing the players sometimes.
I said it as a joke, but because I still cited.
No,
Minecraft.
it's
Right,
but
yeah, we'd already made those
still,
changes,
like
but-
sort of true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just reinforced that they were not that like we had already taken the cards out and they were like it already just reinforced like, yeah, okay, for sure we don't need it.
Right. Yeah. So only 2 cards. I think it's actually like 4 if you stretch it, because I think Jaragumo's a stretch on itself.
Yeah.
It's definitely Drillroid. Jaragumo has it won a YCS Giant card and it won the main event. And it got 2nd place in the main event because he just ran the same list as the guy that won the Basil, I believe his name was, that won the YCS. And then Drillroid obviously it's a decent card. And then some people use Cursed Seal in the sideboard usually. Decent. It's good against Blaze Accelerator, Cyber Angels, stuff like that. And then the 4th one that people have been playing, although I am hard disagreeing on this card, is Shield Crush.
Oh yeah.
I think the card is not good, but people use it and have had, I guess, success with it.
Yeah, but in context, right? Because the success has been in like not in any sort of like reasonable tournaments, right? Like so.
Yeah, I mean, Basil cited it, and I said, "Why are you citing this card? I don't think it's good." And his response was like, "Oh, that was last second. I just had to grab a card." So I grabbed a card
the
that
best
wasn't
reason.
a 0/0 vanilla. You know, like I grabbed a card that has an effect. So I was like, okay, I gotcha.
Shield Crush is the Konami GX Speed Duel GX team's sorry excuse for spot removal, which we so desperately need.
Yeah.
They're just like, surely this is spot removal. I'm like, no, no, it's not.
I mean, like technically,
or trap hole or something like that.
Yeah. Well, technically, sure, but
Yeah.
like,
Played in the episode.
that's all that
so
matters.
We got it.
yeah, it's horrendous. It's like that's what I said. It's a sorry excuse for spot removal. It's not actually what you would want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Not.
So the interesting thing about a lot of people saying that Kaiba Beatdown is worse than Joey Beatdown, not necessarily. It was just something I was thinking about more. And when you look at the skills themselves, I guess the Joey skill is better. while people are still playing widespreads and walls in the main.
Mhm.
And that's like an adaptation problem where like if the majority of people aren't adapting to the meta, then Joey's better. But if people adapt to the meta and say, okay, I'm gonna probably just not run widespreads, run less walls mained, then the Kaiba skill actually becomes better again.
Right.
So that's kind of like a meta call. I don't think the Joey skill is honestly like just strictly better or anything like that. And then the main boards, there's nothing about either of those. Well, so there's nothing about the Joey skill that says you have to build your deck this way. So like if I want to play Kaiba Beatdown and play Jaragumos, I can. Like there's no cards exclusive to the Joey skill that are making the deck better.
Right.
It's just, do you have enough ways to trigger your beatdown skill, your Kaiba beatdown skill, and still have room for things like Jiraguma or Hydrogeddon or whatever monsters you want to play alongside your normal stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's really that big of a difference in like, oh, this one's better or that one's better. It's kind of just like a meta call, and if the meta shifts, they'll kind of switch back and forth. We've seen stuff like that in other formats before, where it's like, oh, this deck's good because people are on this. Oh, but now that people are on this deck's good. Cyber Angels has the same issue. Whenever it gets good, as in like multiple people are playing it, not just a couple, and they're having success with it, well, people just start maining and citing for it harder, and then it becomes a bad call, and it's just that cycle just continues. So Cyber Angels, as much as I think they are a good choice right now, as soon as people say, okay, well, I'm not playing widespreads because that doesn't work against Joey and that doesn't work against Cyber Angels, I'm going to play Floodgates and Side Walls and Mind Crushes. Well, now all of a sudden, Cyber Angels a bad choice. So it's a cat and mouse game there for sure.
I appreciate the optimism of you saying, "Oh, look, things can change as people metagame for each other." Woo.
They can absolutely. It's not as drastic as you would want to see from a card game that over many months. And I know it's only been a month so far since the last podcast, but over many months, it's basically the same little changes. Little changes are sweet when you're talking like day to day, week to week.
Yeah.
But you want to see bigger changes over months. You want to say whole new decks, whole new skills, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Does that just segue us into our next topic? I think we've kind of pretty much covered what the meta's looking
Yeah,
like.
so yeah, I think we've covered over the meta as much as we can. I have a completely unrelated segue.
Oh, okay.
I was just wondering if either of you guys had a sleeve I could borrow. No?
Yeah.
I have this unsleeved card.
Could you hand him one?
It's just like I just have this unsleeved card, and like it's kind of bugging me, you know.
Oh my god!
Unsleeved foil cards. Just
you know what I think you should do is take a pair of scissors to it.
I would need some very large scissors because I just have these little.
I mean, it depends how determined you
I don't
are.
think they would do it. I don't think they could handle that job.
We're gonna send you some bolt cutters.
I need some like hedge trimmers.
Yeah, hedge trimmers. Yeah.
Like,
all right,
record it for sofa.
Yes, that's worth all the money you would get paid for it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So yeah, the next topic is what is wrong with speed duels? Why is it not enticing to people right now? There's a lot of people that own Speed Duel decks and own Speed Duel product and are in the Speed Duel League Discord server, but not a ton of people playing right now. And you would think it would be much higher. We got a ban list. We got a new product. We got erratas. Why are we seeing less people playing now that we're in a mothless format, right? Where burn isn't dominating either, right? We should be seeing lots of people playing. We're seeing lower numbers. We had a huge Alam posted a huge prize, $1,000 split between top 4, and we had I think 26 players only. we had the main event that was the Konami event, right? Where you get a Jinzo playmat for first. Top 8 gets a super rare Book of Moon. There was 8 players. Why do you guys think people do not want to play this format, this meta currently? And say start with Justice this time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to jump in on that. So like part of it is I want to jump in on it because I feel like I'm in a really good position to talk about this. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just as bragging, but now it's relevant. I won the last win a box before the one that just finished, right? I did not play in the one that just finished. I am not signing up for the next one. I'm probably not signing up for the one after that. And you're like, well, doing well, won the win a box and then no interest in playing. What's going on? And it's kind of what we talked about. There are only 2 decks to play if you're trying to actually, like, you really want to try hard win a tournament, right? Those 2 decks are either extremely generic beatdown, right? And like Jiragumo's funny, but like that novelty wears off after a little bit. It's really just summon monster, set back row, attack, pass. Like, that's the deck. And your other deck is TP Volcanic, which is no fun for anybody involved. Whether you're playing it or playing against it. Like, I guess some people will say, I enjoy playing it. Well, I can't help you there. You gotta help yourself. But like, it's a very slow, grindy, sit back and gain a bunch of LP through Ladybug and use your twisted personality. Like, that's not interesting. That is not a fun gameplay style, and that's all we have. Cyber Angel's the closest thing we have to like a combo deck, but that's it's rough after the errata. Not impossible to play, but rough. People are still siding for it. Because like when you look at deck discussions, like any of the deck discussions channel, people are still like siding like Mind Crush and Wall Disruption or even Maining Wall. So like there is definitely still hate for it around. And if you get hit by one piece of side deck hate when your skill was already nerfed, you're done. It's over. Like you're absolutely done. Ojama was the other like not quite as combo, but like it was sort of an OTK, it was an interesting deck, but like that's really fallen out of favor, right? The decks that we know are good are very, very straightforward beatdown that doesn't even like really like find ways to swarm or get really big. It's summon one monster, attack. That's the deck. Not very exciting. Or TP Volcanic, which is just very grindy, very do nothing a lot of the time, or just blaze excel, blow up your monster. I gained 1,000 life points in my standby phase. End turn. It's a really, really boring format. Like, yes, we needed to get Moth out of like its tier 1 status for sure. But like there is a reason why that deck actually had so many people enjoying it, right? Like, and it had its haters, which is fine. But it shows you like in the last form that it had, after the last errata, it was still tier 1. And I'm not like trying to defend the deck, but like it at least did something interesting. And you knew what you had to play around. There were ways to play around it. And did something interesting. Did something that made people interested in playing the game. Was it ultimately healthy? From a strictly competitive standpoint, no. But more people were interested compared to now, where we don't have anything interesting going on at all. There is nothing that makes me go, ooh, I want to try this, or I want to try that, or there's something cool I can try to do in Speed Duels and maybe try to play in a tournament with. It doesn't exist. And I think that's really the big problem. And I think a lot of people are feeling that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what they missed is that, yes, Moth needed to go, like you said, right? The way it was too much, even post errata. I think first of all they missed with the errata on Cocoon, right? Mm-hmm. The correct errata would have been like there's multitude of options we've talked about. Like either don't let them or don't let people tribute their opponent's monsters, right? Yeah. Or don't do damage that turn. So just take out the OTK or near OTK with the 3,500. Just take out that possibility completely. Just take that off the table, right? You're guaranteed to have a chance to recover if your opponent cocoons you. There's multiple ways to go about that, and I think they picked one of the worst ones, which is just restricting the rest of your turn on summons. It's like you're removing a monster and getting a 3500 summon from deck. I don't know that was enough, and it proved to be that it wasn't, so they had to do something about it after that. So that was the first miss. And the second miss, in my opinion, was all the other, like, not all, some of them were needed, but some of the other erratas, like you talked about Cyber Angels, right? Making decks that were previously at a high power level because of the unerrated versions of those skills, like Cyber Angels, like Unions.
Yeah.
Even Dragoon being rogue status was removed into nothingness, right? With Fusion Party getting hit. So just things like that
the
should...
rogue status there. I definitely made Dragoon Bird tier 2. Just FYI. Anyway, continue. Please.
Well, the burn part of it was tier 2. The Dragoon part was kind of like a... kind of like a... If you were to separate the deck, the Dragoon half of it would be rogue.
For sure.
Anyway. But yeah. Just taking away things that, like you talked about, like Cyber Angels is a combo deck. It was something different. It wasn't the same. There are different lines you can play when you're playing Cyber Angels, right? You can, depending on what you draw, or sometimes even if you draw the exact same hand, you can take Cyber Angels, you can take your turn in several different directions depending on what you want to play around. What the board state is, do you want to go fast? Do you want to go a little bit slower? Summon like E-10 and defense pass, or do you want to go for the OTK? Right? There's decisions to be made. There's lines of play. There's a little bit of strategy there. Unions, there's a little bit of strategy there. When do I go for my XYZ Dragon Cannon? How much do I play around those two set back row? How much do I respect it? Do I go for it now? Do I wait? Do I discard to try to destroy that back row? Or do I just go ahead and put my XYZ Dragon Cannon in defense? Actually, having played and succeeding with Unions, I can tell you from experience, it's a skillful deck.
Yeah.
It's why a lot of players didn't touch it and preferred things like Moth. Because Unions is actually somewhat, at least in terms of Speed Duel decks, big brain, right? Maybe not overall if you were to play like TCG or something, but in Speed Duels, Unions is one of the most big brain decks we've had in however long this game's been around. So to take decks like that actually have some kind of like strategic aspect to it, some kind of variety in play, and to give us, decks that essentially do the same thing game after game after game, which is summon monster attack or reveal Ladybug, remove counters from TP to do a thing, and then pass turn, maybe play Blaze Accelerator and activate that, right? Like every game feels the same way, and there's never any like, oh wow, that isn't a play I could have seen coming. Everything is kind of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure, again. So yeah, that's kind of the main issue.
Yep.
Yeah. No, you just semi blew my mind by mentioning Unions, because I was thinking about it. That was the deck I played for fun during Moth format.
Yeah.
For big events, I took Moth. For anything else, I took Unions. And I just realized that deck was really, really fun compared to any option we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Obviously, you can't play Unions anymore because it is got errata and on the list. I think one or the other, sure, you could make the deck work. But
honestly,
both is like,
all they needed to do, the skill didn't even need an errata. They just needed to either like limit 1 or limit 2 scramble.
Yep.
Like that was it.
Yep.
It wasn't even Hanger wasn't even like needing it. It was literally just take away 1 or 2 scrambles. That was it. That's all you needed to do.
Making YZs easily, that wasn't like broken. That's like that's like a power level we want to be on. We want to be on a power level where you can be like, hey, I can make these mini bosses every turn for 3 turns or whatever. Right, but we don't have
not even, right? You have to open Hanger.
Yeah, I mean,
to be able to do that anyway. Like it's not even like
I'm saying every turn.
Right. Yeah, but like it's not even like automatic, right? Like the skill doesn't like just let you search Union Hanger. It requires you to already have it.
Yeah,
it requires you to hard draw.
Play around. There's like dust to the field spell. There's floodgate to the summon. It wasn't that insane.
People were citing Kaiku and Lost Wind. There's so many answers to it, right? But at the same time, the deck also has the ability to like counterplay the answers. And that's Yu-Gi-Oh! At its
Sure,
best.
that's
Right,
Yu-Gi-Oh,
that's
right?
healthy
Yeah.
when there's answers, but those answers aren't. Well, I just shut down your deck forever. All right, go next. You know,
Right.
like yeah, that's called good. Like that is good.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was one of the few healthy decks we had that they just decided they didn't want to be in the format anymore, which is
Right.
really weird to
Yeah,
me.
rather than just tap it down a bit, they're just like, nope, you don't get to play anymore. All right.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of a weird choice to hit it that hard because, like, you could be like, "Oh, it didn't come out during GX." Well, in our world, it came out during Battle City, but like, Chaz literally played that deck, right?
Well,
He
the
played,
V the V through Z. Kaiba was the one to
Yeah,
introduce
sure,
the
sure, sure.
XYZ, and then
But
yeah, Chaz plays W.
instead of them adding support in a way that's like, "Oh, you're not using the Kaiba skill anymore. Now we're using the Chaz skill."
right,
No,
yeah.
they didn't do it that
Ah.
way. They just said, "Oh, we're not getting a Chaz skill, and you're not using the Kaiba skill."
It
Yeah.
it brings up a good thing of the approach they've taken with the GX product, which is instead of incentivizing the new cards, right? It's like, here, this is good, play this. They were like, okay, we're just gonna say you can't play that anymore, so you have no choice but to play this, right?
Yeah, even though it's
that
bad
hasn't
or
worked out
boring.
so well, has it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did, though. You're absolutely right. Instead of saying, "Here are reasons to play the new cards," which is what the TCG does, set after set. They say, "Here's the reasons to play the new cards. They're broken." But instead, with Speed Duel, they're saying, "Here's the reasons to play the new cards. All the old ones are banned."
Yeah. Or it's like completely unusable. Yeah.
They're
All right. Well, did you at
banned
least
or
give us some
allowed to
like
be
new
unbanned.
and interesting stuff to play with? No.
Yeah.
No, it's bad and boring, but it's all you got. So enjoy.
Yeah.
So what we had to do is kind of go to like a lower tier of the old cards, like Golden Ladybug. We kind of had to resort to Golden Ladybug, Widespread Ruin, Charging Gaia, right? Banisher of the Radiance,
Yeah.
Pitch Black Werewolf. It's just
We
like
went
that.
backwards is the problem.
Yeah, it's a step below. And that's what makes it so boring. It's like, wait, these cards have already been here, and they're already not at a power level that I enjoy playing at. Which is probably like whether it's consciously or that's just how they feel and they aren't able to like express that. I feel like that's what's happening with the drop in participation.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it definitely felt like a very thought out choice by the current Speed Duel team to lower the power level of Speed Duels as a whole.
Yep.
And there's like maybe ways that's okay, but when the current product is just there's nothing interesting to do, right? There isn't. There is not an interesting deck that you can play that will give you any kind of chance in a competitive setting. And like, of course, that's gonna drop player numbers. Like, and that is it. I have not entered these winner boxes because there is nothing I want to play that I feel is worth entering with. Like, and because I'm not going to enter a winner box like with a fun deck. Boy, I hope I can win 1 out of my 6 rounds. Like, I'm not going to enter a tournament for that. That's stupid. I have better things to do with my time, like literally anything else. But that's why there's no fun way to competitively play Speed Duels right now.
Yeah, you like Beatdown is not fun to play. Like if you were to just sit down and play like a casual game of Speed Duels, you wouldn't play Beatdown.
Right.
It's not. You play Beatdown because you want to win. You don't play Beatdown because you're having fun. It's because you're kind of just going through the repetitive motion of the most exciting thing about my deck is when I special summon a Cyber Dragon, then put another monster next to it.
Shrink and you don't. That's exciting.
The first time I ever like slapped down Banisher of the Radiance and watched my opponent scramble to figure out how to deal with it because it just shut off their deck was fun. After the first time, it kind of loses its novelty. But the first time was pretty hilarious. But that's it. You know, like that was
The core idea of, I think, Speed Duel and the beatdown decks I like, but yeah, it's just not exciting enough. And what I mean by like the core idea of it feels very old school in the sense where your card management is very, very important. how you use your normal summons, how you use your traps and spells. It's very important. If you go negative on them, you're probably going to lose. If you go positive on them, you're probably going in a position where you're going to win. Where in something like, TCG in the past like 10 years or so, it's a bit different. There's a lot of skill in that game, in that format. I don't want to discredit that, but it's a lot different of a skill. It is not really resource management. It's more of can I build boards and break boards? It doesn't matter if you go negative or positive if you're putting up those boards. So I like the idea of Speed Duel sticking to the kind of the roots of Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like, okay, can you manage your resources well? You'll get rewarded for that. But it's not doing it in an exciting way, because you look at a pretty popular format like GOAT format. That is a resource management format as well. Most decks, at least. That's a resource management format, but it's exciting. You've got Metamorphosis to make cool fusions. You've got Pot of Greed. You've got like exciting plays to make. BLS. Here you have the resource management. That's okay. You've got half of what I want. All right, now give me something exciting. More than just, hey, sometimes you'll get a Cyber Dragon.
It's basically like, give me some reason to want to play this game. Like, is that not ultimately what it boils down to? I think that is like the simplest way of putting it. Give me a reason to want to play Speed Duels. And we don't have that right now.
It's like fun. Give me something fun.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of my enjoyment from being competitive. So I know that's not the case for most people. Most people play a game because it is fun. So that's why they want to play something like Water or Relinquished or whatever, because they're like, well, these decks are fun. They're not going to do great, which is unfortunate, but that's why I'm playing them. For me, I get fun out of competing. So when I'm in a tournament and I'm trying to beat other players, I do enjoy that, even with boring decks. Where the problem occurs for me is I do not want to play test, which is, I should be playtesting every day, and I'm not even close to that.
Yeah.
Because playtesting, we're not competing for anything. We're just practicing. It's super boring. We already know what's going to happen. Whoever draws better is going to win. And I mean, Tara said something.
A good Yu-Gi-Oh format is something you can play for like months and months on end, and it's fun, right? But a bad one is one that gets old in 3 weeks. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, if the testing is enjoyable, you've got yourself a good format. Not just the playing for tournament packs or $1,000 or whatever you're playing for. If you're just having fun, just like messing around, trying to find some new combos and stuff, that's a good format, and that's something you can do in something like the TCG. Almost all points throughout it, whether it was a tier 0 format or it was a super open format with 12 decks, there was still a lot of experimentation. And it's like, you look at the TP volcanic lists and they've basically not changed at all. Like people have switched to DD Warrior Lady instead of Breaker and like run the exact same main and side that they've been running for a month and a half. Crystal Beasts almost changed no cards in the entire main and side. So you've got some experimenting in like beatdown, but that's only because you have to. So the beatdown decks are it's weird that they're winning so much because they're technically anti-meta. They're only good when the format looks a certain way, and that's why they have to change the most to adapt to the meta. Oh, now people are playing this and this and this. Oh, okay, let's switch these cards because these are better. I'm gonna be the first person to say this. I don't think Banisher is very good right now.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Not to where it was. Not where it was.
Yeah, no, not where it was, because it was countering their stuff.
Because
it was countering Ojamas, it was countering Crystal Beasts, to an extent. It was countering some other things that we're just not seeing much of now. So
yeah,
I will say, like,
for Vanisher to be that amazing.
Yeah. Right. I will say, kind of like to your point, decks like ones we were talking about before, Cyber Angels and Unions, are ones that you can still have fun like testing with because there's more decision making. There are other ways because those decks are easier to play poorly. It is actually for someone who like hasn't played Cyber Angels to just pick up the Cyber Angel deck, they are going to play it badly at first. Like they are going to make mistakes. They are not going to take the right lines at first. So like that is something you can actually spend time with and learn and try out. Okay, in this situation, what happens if I do it this way? What happens if I go with this line? Versus, all right, well, what happens if I went with this line instead? You have different ways of doing that. Those decks can be interesting, and that's that. It all ties together. I think we're kind of pointing out all the different ways of basically saying the same thing, which is we need things that are interesting. And those decks are and provide things that are worth testing, that are worth spending time learning and figuring out. Whereas you can hand someone Joey Beatdown that's never played it before, they can't misplay it that badly. Like they might not play it perfectly, but they're not gonna like totally mess it up because you can't.
No, yeah, you literally can't. I think this brings up a good point of like making things interesting. Is like the product itself, right? If you don't believe us, just looking at numbers of entrants in tournaments, just look at the price of the midterm box. I think Drake can give more details on this.
Yeah.
That was kind of mind blowing. We mentioned this in the last podcast as well, but it's gotten worse because so the last podcast came out, I think a week or so after midterms came out, and you could already buy midterms boxes that retail for $15 or $16. You could already buy them for like $9, and we were like, wow, that was a quick drop. Well, now you can get them for under $6, which is like almost a third of retail. Nobody wants the product for Speed Duels, or they already have their 3, and they're like, well, I'm not diving into more of that. And no collectors or TCG players care about it. They're like, cool, you put a Hero Lives in here. That's neat, I guess. But then you reprinted it in the next TCG set, and you put Doggerin in there. That's cool, but like, no one really cares. Like, who's playing dinosaurs? And then you put Gate Guardian in there. That one's a little interesting because
we might have some possibility for it.
They did announce we're getting another set for TCG that has Gate Guardian support. So cool. We'll see some midterm sales. It's too late. They honestly should have announced that like on the release date.
Right. Yeah. And that does kind of speak to it too. There's no like plan for these things. No. I don't feel like there is a plan for how do we make this a desirable product. Like, I'm actually really curious to know how the Speed Duel team chooses cards to put into a product, because we've already established they are not trying to make good decks. We know that. That's very clear. So it's not trying to increase power level. They're not making things that are like, the only things that are interesting are things that are not competitive. They're clearly not doing it to try to work with like making it interesting to advanced format players. So what is their design philosophy for how a product should look? And I don't have an answer to that. I'd really love an answer to that because it is incredibly unclear at the moment.
I feel like they got really lucky with Battle City Box having so many playable GOAT cards upgraded or reprinted to secret rare.
Right.
And they saw that product sell like crazy, and they're like, well, this is what we're doing now. We're making these box sets. And we talked about this last time, so I'm not going to go as in detail about it, but they missed really hard with the secret choices, and that's what it comes down to, because that is what's going to sell this product. Even if every Speed Duel player bought 3 of a box when it came out, and some new players bought 3 of a box when it came out, that's not enough sales,
right,
to make it worth printing it for them. They need people that don't play Speed Duels and do not plan on playing Speed Duels to buy this product. And that is why I think the secret picks are the most important thing. So yeah, that means A, you need to pick your secrets better, but B, you need to pick the contents of your deck of the box itself better so that you can pick better secrets.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to put secrets in that they're generally not going to put secrets in that aren't even in the set, right? So we're not going to get like, oh, secret Ash Blossom, but Ash Blossom's not in the set.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big
No, you're
issue.
going to have to do stuff like that. You're going to have to print cards that people want, like, okay, Speed Duel has Ash Blossom now, or Speed Duel has alternate art Cyber Dragon, or Speed Duel has Gatling Dragon. Just cards people want
Yeah.
in general. For whatever reason, you're gonna have to put them in the Speed Duel product without even really overly thinking their impact into Speed Duels, which is, I think, one of the problems. They are overly thinking the impact, and they're not willing to put in strong cards. Put in the strong card, and it's either going to be perfectly fine and perfectly healthy, or it's going to be too powerful, and you're going to have to throw it on the list as well. We are not going to be
That's
ticked off.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to be pissed by getting a powerful card and then them saying, "Oh, this needs to go on the list." No, we're going to be like, "Oh, thank God they put it on the list. Good job, guys." we're going to clap for them for printing it in the first place, and then we're going to clap for them for dealing with it. Like you win twice.
It's interesting. It almost leads to a question that I have as a follow up to my own question. Like my question was the design philosophy, but like my follow up is, what do they want out of Speed Duels? What do they want it to be? Do they want it to just be a format that kind of exists and maybe will get some players interested in Yu-Gi-Oh, or do they want it to actually be a successful product and a successful format? And what got me like more thinking along those lines is as you were talking, Drake, is I was thinking to myself, like something that like we've kind of thrown around the Speed Duel community a few times is like, what if there were like Speed Duel exclusive North American premieres of cards? Not even necessarily good cards, just like cards, like even like some of the
like Kyrushin, right?
yeah.
And
Like-
the vanillas that we got.
Mhm.
So like what if there like were reasons to for like even non-Speed Duel players to be interested in Speed Duel product? It's like, well, the Speed Duel product is the only way you're going to get your hands on either a new card or this rarity of a card that you might be interested in, like you were talking about with some of those goat format ones. And it just depends. Like if they want Speed Duel to be a successful format, you're going to have to do things like that. If they don't care about that, then I guess you just keep doing what you've been doing. But like that is the question. Like, what do they even want Speed Duel to be? And I feel like right now, it looks like they just want that side format that we remember exists once every 6 months.
And
So, go ahead.
the issue, the reason why this is all necessary is when you compare it to the TCG, their main product for Yu-Gi-Oh. The exciting thing about a new TCG set is that it's new cards. Nobody's ever played these cards before, right? It's literally the line from the anime, like, that's impossible. Nobody's ever played that before because they haven't. It's a new card.
Yeah.
So the issue is this is 100% reprints from Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, right? And Duel Links, we've seen Duel Links has done this too, right? But what made Duel Links sell, right? As far as like what made it fun to play is what I'm going with here, not the points you have already made, which were all good points, right? As how to sell physical product.
Right?
But what made Duel Links fun to play? And it was one, skill cards, or skills,
Yeah.
cards in Duel Links. And two, it was every set had good stuff relative to where the format was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They introduced Ancient Gear Wyvern and Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon when it was insane in terms of the power level of Duel Links. Right? They didn't introduce only Ancient Gear Beast and being like, yeah, buy this structure deck. People would have been like, no, go away. Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they did to us. Like, no, that doesn't work. You have to give people stuff that people are like, oh, this is going to be insane. I have to buy this. Right? And I feel like the midterm box really had none of that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Justice, what does Konami want from Speed Duels? Well, what they have stated more than once is it's not supposed to be ultra competitive. People are going to make everything competitive. That's not on Konami.
Sure.
But what they want from it is they want a launching point for someone that has never played Yu-Gi-Oh to try something out and then move on to TCG eventually. Once you can master playing with only normal monsters, effect monsters, and fusions, maybe then you're ready to say, here's Exceeds, Synchros, and Links.
Can I talk about that for a
You're
second?
not just jumping in from nothing to all of that. So they want a launching point. So they do want Speed Duel to succeed for that reason, obviously. They want Yu-Gi-Oh! To have a launching point. And if Speed Duel fails, they're back to where they were 2018 or whatever before Speed Duels came out. They're back to, we don't have a launching point anymore. We just have Advanced, and it's pretty intense just to jump straight into Advanced.
Okay. All right.
And then the other thing is,
please, I really want to talk about that. I'll go ahead and finish, but I really want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's real quick. I was just going to say, the other thing is they're a business, so they want to sell product. Like,
right,
that's obvious. They don't have to say that.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. Konami, if you're listening, and I hope you are, I need you to pay close attention here. Just here, let's get a little closer. Let's get a little closer to the mic. Konami, I need you to understand something. Speed Duel and Advanced Format are basically two separate games. They have almost nothing to do with each other. Playing Speed Duel for 10 years is not going to teach a person the first damn thing about how to succeed in Advanced Format. It is not a launching point. Other than teaching you what monsters, spells, and traps are, that's about it. Those two games play so radically differently. Learning Speed Duels does not help you get into Advanced Format. I'm sorry. Like, oh my god, that is the dumbest freaking strategy. You either need to right now understand that Speed Duel has to be its own format, and like maybe a couple people will try out Advanced, but like it is not going to be this massive wave of Speed Duel players that now decide to try Advanced for the first time. Not gonna happen. So either make Speed Duel its own format or just can it. I'm sorry, because like that is the worst possible way of looking at it, because that is all that's going to do is continue make them continue making decisions that are bad for the Speed Duel community. That is all that's ever going to do. The only way they're going to make decisions that are actually beneficial for dedicated Speed Duel players is by treating Speed Duel as its own format. So they either need to do that or just get rid of it. And like it cannot be good for us if that is how they continue to look at it, and they need to understand that.
I want to take that a step further and be like, there's no such thing as a launching point for Yu-Gi-Oh! Advanced Format anymore, okay? Mm-hmm. They tried with Master Duel as well, right? They give you a whole tutorial. And if you don't already know Yu-Gi-Oh! Generally, like even took me a few games to understand Link Summoning completely.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't know, if I didn't know already what Synchro and Xyz was, and I even knew what Pendulum was, if I didn't already know all that, on top of that, you have to learn Link Summoning. Like, I'm sorry, for most players, they're just going to be like, no, I'm good.
Okay, but like it even goes further than that, because even let's say, all right, I go through a tutorial, I play some games, I understand how Link Summoning works now. I get it completely. Mm-hmm. If that's the extent of your knowledge, if I hand you an Advanced Format deck, you are still not going to have the first damn clue of how to play it correctly. Even if you understand all the mechanics, all how every type of summon works, you are not going to even begin to be able to play that deck. Because that's just how Advanced Format is. It is so combo intensive. It's all about, most decks anyway, are all about, getting to the extra deck. It's so intricate. There's so many things. There's combo lines you need to have memorized. I cannot, even if someone understands Link Summoning and all of that completely, you cannot just hand them a deck and expect them to be able to play it. Yeah. That's my point. That's why I say Speed Duel is so much different than Advanced. They are almost basically two different games. There is almost nothing in common. Like, so yeah, they can't be looking at it like that. I'm sorry. If they are still thinking that way, they don't understand their own game.
Yeah, it's 100% the incorrect approach. Look, when a game becomes grows to that level of complexity as Advanced Format has, I think the barrier to new player entry is so strong that You're not going to break it by saying, let's create an overly simplified version of the way our game looked 15 years ago,
Right.
17 years ago, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't cut it.
It's like almost at this point, it's almost 20 years ago. Um, but you still have to take away Monster Reborn, Regeki.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah, all the
Take away all the
power
fun
cards
stuff,
from
all the fun, powerful cards,
Mhm.
and then it's 20 years ago. Yeah,
And I will say this
That's
too:
negative.
if they really want Speed Duel to be a jumping off point for Advance, which again, as we've talked about, makes no sense. If they really wanted it, if that was important to them, they'd put it in Master Duel. Because now you have a way of looking at the game and all right, I can start at this lower thing, and now within the same game client, I can now try out other stuff.
Yep.
Rather
that's
than it being
complicated.
completely separate.
That's complicated for reasons that none of us agree with. I think we all think those reasons are stupid, but they don't want to put things in that game that are region specific.
Right.
So like they don't have rush duels in there because it's OCG only.
Mhm.
They don't have speed duel in there because it's TCG only. It's
Yep.
the same reason they don't have TCG format or OCG format.
Right,
Which
they made
should
their
have.
own format. Yeah.
They
I
should
mean, the
have both.
The whole
If they
region
want to
thing.
also have Master Duel format, that's fine. If they want to have 3 formats up there, it's not. This is not hard. I'm not a
Yeah.
programmer, but I know it is not hard to make 3 ban lists on your program.
Yeah, no, of course they could do these things. if
I
they
mean,
really wanted
look,
to.
it's the whole region thing. That's never made sense to me anyway. Like, what other game does that? What
Oh, it's
other
very
game
stupid.
is like, hey
Yeah.
man, Japan will operate under a completely different set of rules.
Right.
And they have different
Then
ban lists, different
yeah,
hard
like why?
rules, different
you-
rulings.
Hell,
which is the
even
whole
and
format
this
part.
is a joke just for Terra Master, really. But hell, even Major League Baseball has a universal DH now, so those leagues don't have separate rules anymore. So
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, can you imagine if Pokemon was like, hey man, in Japan, no legendaries are banned, but in the US, every legendary and mythical Pokemon is banned. That's
Right,
the stupidest thing, and will make global gameplay impossible, which ruins kind of an element of the fun that is, battling online in Pokemon. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's never made sense to any of us, but this has always been how Konami's done it since the start. They've always wanted OCG, TCG. These are different. For some reason that honestly to this day still makes no sense.
some
to
reason
me.
that our mortal minds will never be able to comprehend.
Every other game does global releases.
Yeah.
So new product comes out, it comes out on the same day for everyone. Yeah, occasionally there are shipping delays. That aside, the product comes out the same day for everyone. So everyone can play midterms on the same day. They don't have to wait 3 to 12 months. We have to wait for OCG product to come over to TCG, which I've always found very strange. But that's how it works. But yeah, I think that would be an excellent thing they can do is throw speed duels, rush duels, throw that all on Master Duel.
Yeah.
But I cannot think like Konami does.
Right.
Thankfully.
Well, that would involve removing the logic center from your brain. So
Involve removing some part, probably called something cortex or hippocampus, or I don't know what part of your brain here. Yeah, involve doing some kind of a little
all right. So I will say, just for the sake of keeping things straight, I think it's enough of us just like straight shitting on the game, although there's just so much of that to do. I want to be clear. You probably see like the most passion from me as I'm talking about how much I hate some of the things they've done. But I'm confident I can speak for all of us when I say that part of the reason we are kind of shitting on it right now, and part of the reason we are so passionate, is because we care about the game. Like, we all have spent a fair amount of time, with the game. We've all done different things. Like, I know I can speak for myself and for Terramaster as well. We've been involved in this game in like basically 3 distinct ways as player, organizer, and content creator, right? Like, we've put a lot into this, and like Drake, I know you've spent quite a bit of time, put a lot of your time and energy into the game as well. We say these things because we care. Like, we want to see Speed Duel succeed and grow, and it's just incredibly frustrating to see decisions being made that are very obviously counterproductive to that. And it's just incredibly frustrating that Konami does not seem to be able to recognize that or do anything about it. And so that's what leads
we
to this.
we want it to succeed. That's really what it is, because we play it and we want to keep playing it. So maybe you have some friends that used to play Yu-Gi-Oh or have never even played Yu-Gi-Oh, and you want to go tell them, hey, we have this format, Speed Duels. It's really cheap. It's really fun. It's really easy to learn. But one of those three things you said was basically a lie, because it's not really fun. It's like kind of fun, but so we're talking about it negatively, not because we want to see it fail. Obviously, we're just concerned with these issues. We can see these issues. Hey, you need to make the product more saleable. You need to make the product more powerful, and that's really it. Those two things right there will go such a long way.
Yeah.
Making the product powerful can be with the cards we get and with the skills. You really can't give us a new product and say the skills are bad and the cards are bad. You cannot afford to do that.
At the end of the day, it's like with any game, right? It's a game. How do you sell a game? You better make it fun to play.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's literally what it boils down to.
They forgot about that part.
So
yeah,
we've got one more product announced at this point, and that's coming out next spring. The Shadow Riders box, which we don't have enough info about it to do a full discussion quite yet, but we do know some of the decks that are coming in it and stuff. It looks pretty hopeful, to be honest.
Good.
I'm hoping they learned from these last two products. Yeah, I'm hoping they learned from these last two products, especially midterms. I think there's so many lessons to be learned from midterms.
It's just a
but
question
even
of
from the
whether they
GX
want
box
to or not. Like, do they care enough to learn? And I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Midterms. Yeah, can we talk about that for just a minute, right? Midterms.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to base an entire product around some obscure Yu-Gi-Oh! GX episode, which almost nobody remembers except literal nerds who watch GX within the past year, like me, or people who really like Gate Guardian for some reason, Lucas. Nobody else remembers that episode or cares about it. Yeah. And then the cover monster is Elemental Hero Tempest. It's like, I'm sorry, who? So yeah, there.
This is coming from our resident hero enjoyer, by the way. That is bashing the.
I love heroes. I love elemental heroes. I still don't know who Tempest is. So yeah, there. That was a really bad product design from the start.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I'm just hoping they learned, because if they learned from these especially this last product, but I'm going to keep saying these last two products because that's what they've been in charge of.
Right.
If they learned from those, we might see an awesome third product here, and then we might see awesome Speed Duel going forward. If they did not learn from those products, we might see another bad product and Speed Duel's over. But yeah, I'm not trying to be like the doomsayer, because we all thought, oh, Speed Duel's gonna die, and that with that year wait we had between Battle City box and GX box, everyone's like, well, Speed Duel's over, and no, we got a bunch of new products, bunch of new tournaments. For a while there, it was bigger than ever.
Yeah,
there was more Speed Duel players and more Speed Duel talk than ever. So we could predict, like, oh, it's not going so well, and it could actually turn out fantastic. We're gonna have to wait one more set to find out.
Yeah, I will say, and I've said this already, if Shadow Riders box bombs, I could very easily see that being the last product they release for Speed Duels. So, like, that's not a guarantee, obviously, because you never know, but I could very easily see it being the case, so man, fingers crossed that they don't blow this one.
Honestly. This might be your last chance, Konami.
Yeah. All right. I think we've been talking for a long time. This should about wrap us up here. Any closing thoughts either of you want to make before we sign off here?
No, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Look, the Supreme King is on the cover of the next box,
which is way better than Tempest.
Which is 100% better than Tempest. I think a lot more Yu-Gi-Oh familiar people know who that is.
Yep.
So hopefully that works.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep. Drake, anything from you?
I think I said pretty much everything. I like to do a little thing at the end where I say what decks you should play if
Okay.
you're going to.
I feel like we covered that extensively.
There is a no. This is a little summary at the end.
Okay.
Where I actually pick the one deck I would play.
Okay.
I guess it was two last time. I said TP or beatdown last time.
Okay.
I got it down to one deck. And that is just play Joey.
Yeah. Beaver Warrior Turbo will have to wait. It will have its time to shine, but it's not today.
For sure.
All right. So yeah, that will wrap us up. To all of you out there who did watch this, thank you so much for being here and sticking with us as we should all over the game. But I want to look forward to the future with more optimism. So if you did make it this far in the video, let us know in the comments down below what deck type you are hoping will be good with the arrival of the Shadow Riders box. It can be a brand new deck type, or it could be a deck type that we already have that you're hoping will get new life with that box. So let us know in the comments what you're hoping to be able to play and do well with after release of Shadow Riders box. But again, that will do it for us today. So as always, my friends, be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Good luck in all of your games, and we will see you soon.